Hi friends, Mindy here. I thought I would bring you along today while I set up for the 100-day project. I am going to be making some Memorydex cards for my project. Here you can see a couple of Memorydex boxes that I have done before, and I have this beautiful box that was given to me from Bobby. I will link her Etsy store down below. It's Precious Memory Boxes. And she was so kind and sent this box to me, and I've been trying to think of the best way to use it. And so I think this project is going to be perfect for it. So if you don't know, the 100-day project is basically you pick a project, something that you can do every day, and commit to doing it for 100 days. It doesn't matter what the project is. It doesn't have to be a complete project every day or whatever. But I decided I was going to make Memorydex cards. So today I want to kind of put together all of my substrates as just a way of kind of having some of the prep work done. So I have some of these scraps from some paper. They're kind of like offcuts from some other things that I did. And so they're the perfect size width-wise, but they're just not very tall, which is going to be okay because I end up making these kind of all different sizes. I think that's just going to be a lot of fun and look really neat with the whole effect overall. So right now I'm just cutting up some of the scraps that I had pulled out because I just want to use that up. I'm trying to use up some things. So I also have these scrapbook papers. These are really, really old and we'll probably never use them for anything else. So what I'm going to do is actually take these and use these as a base to make some collage master boards. So I'm taking just a bunch of different things and I'm going to collage it on here. I've done this before on my channel. And just to make some bases to start with. My plan for this 100-day project is to not spend more than 15 minutes a day creating a Memorydex card. So every day might not be, a masterpiece or whatever, and some days I may just play with paint or experiment or whatever, but I just want to have a Memorydex card for every day, and I just felt like it would be a lot easier if I had some bases already set up, and then I can kind of choose where I want to go from there. So I have used some book text here and covered all of that scrapbook paper. And now I'm coming in with, this is actually an old, a tea bag. I just took the tea out of it and let it dry. And now I'm just kind of trying to put this over the seams where in the paper so that there's not like any harsh lines. And I am using matte medium to do all this. You could certainly try this with a glue stick or whatever. I just prefer matte medium for this kind of project. I have a big bin of scrap papers and things from different projects, and so that's really what I'm using. My intention is to really use everything that I have and not purchase anything for this and just use up my scraps. I've been trying to organize my craft room some, and so I just have a lot of things that I would like to just get used up. So here I am collaging down some music paper now. I also have some vintage papers that I will be using as well, and I'm just making sure to put a coat of collage matte medium down, and then I put the paper down, and then I put a layer over the top, and that just seals everything down really well. And I'm trying to cover up the harsh lines and just areas in the text. It's just kind of random at this point. So this paper that I'm putting down now is actually some vintage it was like handwriting practice paper. It was so cool, and the handwriting on it is so awesome. This was actually sent to me from Bobby, and so I'm really tickled to get to use it again. I've been kind of hoarding it, but I thought this would be the perfect place to put some of it. So and it's just in the red handwriting, this part of it, which I think just adds a little bit of color, especially against all these kind of neutrals. And then I have some other vintage music paper and all kinds of things. So right now I'm just trimming off where I kind of went out over the edges. The book text that I use, normally I usually tear off like the extra white space on the edges, but for some reason I didn't do that this time. So I needed to trim this down to kind of really get like the parameters, because I just wasn't getting all the collage-y parts where I needed to. So I dried everything, I trimmed it down, and now I'm going to go back in with some more different papers. I'm going to also use some like brown paper packaging or like, you know, a brown paper bag. Also here, I'm just using one of those like fake credit cards that you get in the mail with the credit card offer. I'm just using it to kind of smooth everything down and make sure the glue is spread around and everything. And then coming back in, this was actually some music paper that I was working on another project, and I was kind of using this to mop up the ink and stuff that I was using. And so then of course I saved that because it works great for collage like this and just adds a little bit of color to this background. I don't want to add too much because I don't really know how these pieces are going to end up finished. I want to kind of keep them pretty neutral. Here's where I'm coming in with that brown bag, and just again trying to kind of smooth some of those areas out so that there's not like hard lines and seams and everything. It just makes for kind of a more cohesive look. It just doesn't seem so harsh, I guess. So this is pretty much done. I have a coat of matte medium over everything, and I have dried everything. And now I want to kind of make this so that it will be a little bit more workable when I come to use it. And so what I'm going to do is take some white gesso. I'm using a Dina Wakley gesso, mostly because I just want to use this bottle up. You could use anything, but it's also a heavier body, so I'm going to be able to kind of apply this kind of thick in some areas and thinner in others, depending on what I'm doing. And so I'm just basically going around all those pieces that I collaged down and trying to kind of blend out the seams or blend out the edges and make it seem like one more cohesive piece. And then also where some of this text is really dark, from the book text, I'm just going in there and kind of applying a really thick layer there. And across this top here, there's an area where there's a really harsh line, and I'm going to go in with some gesso and apply a really thick layer of that as well. So here everything is kind of been applied, and I'm going to come through now with a baby wipe and just kind of pull up some areas where trying to smooth out, you know, everything so it doesn't look like it was just a glob of paint there, and just smooth out the edges of the paint and everything. And then again, this is where I'm going to come in and add some more across that line right there. It was just kind of annoying me that there was this really stark line right across there. So I'm going to add some more gesso here, and I'm just kind of going back and forth between applying some paint here and there and then smoothing it out with the baby wipe, just kind of trying to knock back some of the color intensity. Some of this paper, like that music paper, had really dark notes and stuff on it, and there was a lot of them. They weren't like, you know, I don't know how, the staff is actually like really condensed, and so, and just kind of reads as like this really big dark black line. And so I just wanted to kind of mute that down. And then there's where I did that line of gesso just kind of really thick in that one area. So everything here is basically dry now. And so I'm flipping it over to the back side, and I'm going to go ahead and cut these down. And I'm going to cut this. This was a 12 by 12 sheet of paper when I started. So I'm just going to cut these into 4 by 4 squares. These will fit perfectly in the Memorydex box, and from, you know, in width wise, they'll be fit perfectly, but also in height, and I can always trim them down if I want to have them just a little bit shorter. And then this is just the reveal of these little cards. So I end up with 9 of these. There's this one right here at the end that, oh no, that's on a different, I'm sorry. So I'm just kind of going through, I'm going to add those into my little box here. And you can kind of see, I feel like I'm going to have enough room. So I took another paper and I did the same exact thing, but just with some different papers and colors. And I also had some tissue that had the greenery on there. And I went through the same exact process. But here I'm going to apply a wash of gesso. I keep a wash in a bottle. It just makes it easier. And so it's just gesso with some water. And I'm applying this all over the top of this entire page, and just thought I would try to see, you know, just to get a different kind of look and effect. And this had some different paper on it. When I created a junk journal a while back, I got some items from the Dollar Tree, And there was this really interesting paper. It was really thick and textured. And so I included some of that in this collage, and I also included some of the tissue that I got there. And so it just has some different textures and stuff. So I thought the wash would be the best way to handle that. And then, but I'm going back through it in the same way with a baby wipe and just pulling up some areas. There's one area I wiped up too much, and so I'm just adding a little bit of gesso back to that to kind of get an even look. And then again, just going through and pulling up some of the gesso just to make some brighter areas, and just kind of going back and forth to get to the look that I want. I still want this to be fairly muted because eventually I'm going to be doing whatever over top of this, and so it can't be like right in your face. So I did the same thing. I dried that, I cut it all down, and then here are these 9 cards. So most of these turned out okay. There's one here at the end that I will have to do something with because somehow I got this right here. I didn't get it all the way to the edge. So I will just either trim that down or add something there to cover that. And then I pulled out some other scraps that I had in my stash here from other projects that I was working on. And I'm just starting to make my my papers. And then I decided to just go ahead and take some scrapbook paper and cut down some squares also. And that just gives me a variety. So as you can see here, I have a big stack. I'm going to go through here really quickly. This is just some scrapbook paper. This was a scrap in my stash. These are those cards that we just made. And then I have a bunch of scrapbook paper, and I've cut these all down, like some to 4x4 squares, and some are like 4x3 or 3.5, just to have kind of a variety. But this is 100, a little actually more than that. This is 100 substrates, and they all fit here in my box, and so I will be working with those. So if you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until next time, bye.